Hi, I'm Robin Morkentine. I'm with Miracle 139 International. I'm a special education teacher and a behavior specialist. And today I'm going to talk to you about visual supports and specifically helping your students understand when something is going to be over. Have you ever taken an exercise class or been doing an exercise video at home? Often when the instructors are asking their audience to perform an activity that's really challenging, they have a tendency to count backwards to indicate how many more reps or how many seconds are left until it's over. And why do they do this? They do this because they know that providing a countdown during something that's really hard helps a person get through to the finish. And this is what I want to talk to you about today. The importance of helping our students understand when something that is really hard for them to do will end. I was working with a student last week, a new student, and I introduced a new math activity to him. Now, math for him is definitely a non-preferred subject. After I told him that we would be doing math problems, he asked me, how many? I paused and told him thank you for asking me that, and I counted how many math problems I planned on presenting. And what a great communication skill that is. And how many students might you have that may want to know the answer to that question, but can't ask? If you found yourself in a situation where a student is really resisting an activity, maybe they turn their head away, say no, maybe they say it's too difficult, or maybe even more serious behaviors such as aggression are occurring, there are lots of things to consider as an educator, such as asking whether or not the task can be presented differently. But the strategy I'm talking about today, and a strategy that I use often as an educator, is providing visual supports to help a student understand exactly how much of a task I want them to do before it's considered finished. Now, this is going to look really different depending on the student you're working with, what their developmental level is, their tolerance for tasks. So today I'm just going to show you a few different ways you can do this. What's really important is that you start to think about how you can use this concept in your own setting, which is creating a visual format to help your students understand when a task will be finished. One of the most common ones that I like to use is just empty squares on kind of like what looks like a token board. I might write the activity on the top, such as math, and then I'll write the number of squares to determine how many problems that I want a student to finish, or maybe how many sets of problems I want them to finish. And then at the end, I might even mark or write down or draw a picture of what they get to do when they're done. So for example, if a student is working on 5 math problems, they finish 1 problem, I would write in the square either a check, maybe a star or a happy face, or maybe a bug if they like bugs, just to indicate that that first step is done. And then it marks off as they go so that they know exactly when they get to be finished. Another strategy that I like to use for students who can tolerate more work and if they're doing sort of paper-based tasks at school is I just like to write an empty square over a worksheet or the number of worksheets that I want them to complete. So here on the top right of this multiplication worksheet, I've written an empty box. And then when they finish it, I'll check that box and they can move on from the next worksheet. Another strategy that I use a lot are checklists. And I use checklists in my own life as well. So this isn't limited just to in your classroom. But if you have a student who can tolerate more work, or you've got different sets of tasks that you want them to complete before they get to have their time choosing something to do, you can just write down an empty box and then write what they're supposed to do, or you can even draw a picture if you're artistic. And I'll write 1 math worksheet, read a poem, draw a picture, and then I might write all done with a couple smiley faces. Even if they can't read, everybody knows what a smiley face looks like. Timers are another great tool to help students understand how much of a task is left. For example, a duration spent walking or engaged in a physical activity, reading silent, or maybe listening to an audio. We have a really great training on visual timers, so if you want to, go check that out. Using visual supports in general is an excellent teaching tool. They can also be powerful tools to help people understand how much work is expected and therefore potentially tolerate learning tasks more readily.